Boom, ladies and gentlemen, the real estate market. We don't know what's going to happen, but I can tell you this. No matter what, people need to buy and people need to sell. And if you want to get into the flip game, this is an episode you want to pay attention to. Let's get this one started. Here we go.
Shut up and sit down.
Look, a business can give you everything you want in life. Prestige, wealth, freedom. It can also take everything away from you. This show is for those who are willing to take that risk. These are the real life stories of entrepreneurs. But before we start, I have one small favor to ask. Please leave a comment. It can be advice, critiques, tips, feedback, or share this with someone because your engagement is the most valuable and most powerful form of social currency. So thank you, and welcome to another episode of Business Bros. All right, ladies and gentlemen, from flipping over 10,000 properties to mastering the art of creative financing, today's guest has built a multi-million-dollar real estate empire. He's an expert in wholesaling, hard money lending, and outside-the-box investing strategies that help entrepreneurs maximize their deals. If you've ever wanted to break into the real estate and make serious money, this episode's for you. So let's welcome to the show, Mr. Chris Eymann. And just like that, Chris, we are ready to get started. Let's do this thing. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. Dude, I mean, I've been on some other shows, but your fucking intro. Oops. Am I not allowed to say
that? You're totally okay.
Your intro is awesome. Like all the different, everybody else is just kind of like, you're just like on it.
Thanks, man. I'm trying to separate myself, trying to be a little bit different. Kind of like you, dude, flipping over 10,000 property deals. Walk me back, man. Everybody starts at one. How'd you get to the point where 10,000 deals have gone down?
So obviously I didn't flip 10,000. Maybe I got like 1,000 flips under my belt. But, I started back in 99, way before all this social media, YouTube craziness, all that stuff, right? Just buying houses at the foreclosure steps. House goes to foreclosure, they take it to the courthouse and auction it off. So that's kind of where I got in the game. Like I said, I didn't have that social media, so I was a network junkie. Lunch and learn, happy hour, wherever I could go find and meet people, that's what I did. And then everybody's like, what do you mean you're buying at the court? No one buys at the courthouse steps. That's like for the old school dudes. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm the old school dude then. They're like, will you get me one? I'm like, yeah, I got this one I got this one on 123 Main Street. I bought it for $100,000. You can have it for 104. And then that just, you want to give me another one? Oh, can I get my best friend one? And then the next thing I know, I was a wholesaler before the whole wholesaler word even came into the picture. So
wait, you were social networking before there was social networking. You were doing lunch and learns. You were actually shaking hands. I don't know about kissing babies or anything like that, but shaking hands, making deals happen the old school way. The only downside to that is you have less people that you can talk to about that. I'm sure you made some mistakes along the way. What are some of the biggest mistakes you made at the beginning, and what made them so valuable for you to maybe do something differently going forward?
Yeah. So obviously, you're gonna, if you're putting yourself out there, you're gonna make mistakes, right? It's just how many mistakes do you limit yourself to? Can I do 8 good ones for my 2 losses, 9 good ones for my 1 loss, right? So that's and not having that 1 loss cause enough fear to where you stop, right? Because and some of the losses were decent size. You could have a $20,000 loss, but you can't let that stop. You're like, you got to look at the whole puzzle, right? And then I actually got into the hard money game, had a $100 million line of credit from Wells Fargo. Financial crisis happens in 2007. I lost $4.8 million on my tax return, and I didn't even let that loss set me back, right? So had to regroup, reset, and didn't file bankruptcy, lost about $1.5 million of friends and family money, paid that all back. So, if you're in the game and you're wanting to play, like there's challenges, obviously.
Let's walk this back a little bit, because I know there's people who want to get in the real estate space, and like almost any industry, the hardest thing at the very beginning is learning some of the terminology, speaking real estate language, right?
Yeah.
A couple things you said that are kind of exciting to me, and especially because I teach a class with 17-year-old high school seniors that are trying to make their way into the world, and a lot of them have this idea of getting into real estate. And I often suggest working for a wholesaler, identifying some of these deals and putting them together. Tell me a little bit about what wholesaling is. And how it kind of has changed ever since you've been on the courthouse steps to kind of what we have access to tools today.
Yeah, so obviously when it's courthouse steps, you're bidding. You have to, in Phoenix, where I started, you had to pay for it the next business day. Some days you actually have to have the check with you, like California, Las Vegas. You got to pay for it that day. Now you can still do the courthouse steps. Different world right now. A lot of people have equity, so not as much foreclosures or processing. But a lot of people have jumped on YouTube and all that. And you can actually go do some marketing, whether it's door knocking, cold calling, and then you just offer $100,000 on that 123 Main Street. You have like a 14-day contract with a 5-day inspection period, and during that 5-day inspection period, which is kind of your get out of jail free card, you go market that contract to somebody else for say $105,000. That fix and flip buyer then funds the deal for the 100 to the seller, 5,000 to you. And, now you got a check for $5,000 and you never actually ever had any risk in the deal. So that's wholesaling.
And you don't have to have a license for a wholesale deal, right? I mean, this isn't like you're representing anybody.
Yeah. So that used to be like, that was kind of the case. And a lot of people obviously teach that. Now, a couple states like South Carolina it's illegal to wholesale. Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, and Chicago all said you must be licensed to wholesale. So, I mean, but a real estate license isn't terrible. Like, it's not a 90-hour class. It's online. It's maybe a $500 to $1,000 investment. And if you wanted to go get to the space, I mean, a trade school is going to cost you way more than $500 to $1,000.
100%. But the cool thing about having a license on top of being able to do the wholesaling stuff is if you're in the real estate space and you don't want to do the representation, you can hand that off to a licensed real estate agent and still earn a commission check. So having the license, even if you don't practice specifically representing clients, can still be super beneficial. Now, another thing you mentioned was hard money lending. How is that any different from anybody going to the mortgage when they're a first-time buyer? And how does one get access to hard money?
So, I mean, there's hard money lenders in every state. I'm only in Arizona and Florida, but hard money is kind of like, one of those companies on the corner that'll loan you money on your car with no credit, right? They're going to charge you a bunch of money. In housing, it's got commoditized a lot, so it's not terrible. It's like 10 to 12%. But if you got that deal, say that same deal that was $100,000 that you could have wholesaled for $5,000, let's just say it's worth $150,000. You can get a lender to give you somewhere between 85 and 100% of that $100,000. So you'd only have to come in between 0 and 15,000 down. You got to do the fixing and flipping, and then you sell it. But I don't check your credit because if you don't pay me, I liked your deal at $100,000. I'm just going to keep the deal myself. So.
That's fair. I mean, that's how it works out. There's the collateral in there makes it so much worthwhile that it's a no-brainer for people to lend you the money on that. If you default, no worries. I'll just take it back and sell it and make my profit off of it. Exactly. Now, that's one way to finance a deal. You're known for having all kinds of different ways of creatively financing different investment opportunities. What are some that maybe investors overlook when they get into this real estate space?
So if you're going to get out there and like to your point about getting your real estate license, if you're going to get out there and spend money on leads, well, you're either going to do one thing. You're going to spend your time or your money on the leads. So those are your choices. If you're just starting out, you're going to spend your time. You're going to pick up the phone. You're going to do some cold calling. You're going to do some door knocking. But if you're spending that or you're spending your dollars, you need to be able to convert your leads. And not everybody wants to take your $100,000 for your $150,000. So that's offer number one. Offer number two is to move. There's a creative way to do deals called novations, where you you do the deal and you say, hey, I'm going to still get, you don't want to take my $100,000 offer. I can get you that 110, but it's going to take me more time. And what we do is we just put it under contract, and then we get what's called an attorney in fact, and we put the house up on MLS, and we negotiate between the 110 and $150,000 house. Maybe we throw it up for 135 or 140, get a cash offer quickly, somebody that wants a deal that's looking in that neighborhood, and we negotiate the middleman. That's called innovation. There's also something called creative finance. Maybe they don't want to take your $100,000 offer, but they'll take terms and give you some kind of seller financing where you can pay them in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years. And then that's kind of offer number 2. And then obviously kind of the low hanging fruit is, hey, if you want $130,000, $140,000 for your house, which makes sense. I get it. It's your only asset. It's all the equity you have in your life. Then that's where that real estate license comes in handy. You can say, well, the best way to get the most money is to take it to MLS. And so, I do a little coaching on the side, but that's anybody that's ever, gone through the coaching program is like the wholesale offer is kind of like the anchor. And then we switch to a novation offer, a creative finance offer. If we can't get that done, let's just stick it up on MLS, but you spent your time, you spent your money. Let's close the deal and convert the deal.
Yeah, you're looking for a way to, because the whole idea behind the wholesaling, behind flipping is you're going to talk to a lot of people before you actually find that deal. And so when you're at the stage where you have something under contract, that took a lot of work to get there. So you're doing everything you possibly can on the creative side, on the financing side, to make sure that deal closes. It might not make you as much net as you originally wanted to on your first pitch, but it's not to let that deal go to waste. There's something there, and you can kind of work with it. Speaking of which, I also heard something like 60% of mortgages have like super low interest rates, low 4s, maybe 3%. Is there anything investors can do when it comes to approaching people who have those types of loans? And money today is a lot more expensive, 6, 7, 8% loans.
Yeah. So I typically, like when I come across like the 3.5% loans, I keep those properties, right? Because I can generally say, oh, you got this $100,000 mortgage that's at 3%. Why don't I give you, money to move to your next place? I can pay for the moving truck. And for me, I like to keep those in place because where else am I going to get the $100,000 mortgage at 3%? Mm-hmm. I'm not getting it. So, but we can do something else where if you don't want to keep rentals, that kind of stuff, you can get that 3% mortgage or that $100,000 mortgage at 3% and then sell it to what I call the penalty box buyer, somebody that doesn't have the best credit, somebody who doesn't qualify for that loan. And you sell it to them on terms at maybe going rate at 6.5%. And now you're making 3.5% on the $100,000, which isn't your money. So you're leveraging that, and you're making, $40,000 on the spread that you just generated. And then that's at 6.5% on 40 grand. So you're making, $2,500 a year for doing nothing really. And it's recurring income. It's mailbox money, right?
Yep. And then the greatest part about that is if they ever sell or they ever refi, you just got paid out. Like it's not really necessarily a bad thing, right?
Yeah, you got a $40,000 check. When the mailbox money comes with a $40,000 check, you're like, yes.
That was definitely a good day. Well, okay, let's go back to the hard money stuff because hard money, on the surface sounds really attractive, sounds really sexy, can be a real game changer, especially when you're getting into investments. But it could also be really risky. Who shouldn't be using hard money loans?
Well, so that wholesale game is kind of risk-free. We talked about the inspection period, and we're selling the contract in that 5 days. And it's generally kind of like that 17-year-old student you talked about. That's kind of where they start, right? And then they get going. They get a couple contracts. Maybe they get $10,000. Maybe they get a third one done. They get $15,000 under their belt. And they're like, all right, I'm going to take that $100,000 house, and I'm actually going to go get hard money on it. And then I'm going to do my little fix and flip on it, maybe put another 10,000. Then I'm going to take it to the retail market where So instead of getting a $5,000 check, you actually fix and flip the house, and maybe you get like a $20,000 check. Now, you need the cash flow because you're going to need the down payment. You're going to need the rehab money. You're going to need the money to make the payments. So it's not something you want to do without when you don't have any cash. But as you start building the war chest, you can start picking, all right, this one's going to be easy. I'm going to flip this one. I'm going to wholesale these harder ones over here. Okay, here's another decent one. I know this area. Anything that goes on the market, it sells in like a day. I'll keep this one. So you're just balancing it. And then as you keep growing what I call the active income, then you're like, oh, here's one at 3%. I'm going to keep that one for my rental portfolio so I could get mailbox money for the next 30 years.
So if you're just getting started, because you're exactly right, you're going to need to have that cash reserve. You're going to want to have that cash flow because there is still recurring expenses that happen while you're doing the flip, all these things. Ballpark it for me. I mean, everybody's in a different part of the country, so obviously the flip game is going to have different numbers based on where you're at. But if I'm just getting started and I'm out there bird dogging deals, I'm doing the wholesale thing, stacking some chips away. When should I feel comfortable to be able to move into a hard money and maybe take on a flip versus just wholesaling?
Yeah, so I would make sure I had the down payment money. I would make sure that I had the rehab money, at least 4 to 6 months in monthly payments, and then when you have enough of that put away, then you can all right, I'm going to do a flip with this one. Or if you don't want to wait that long, reach out to rich Uncle Tom or Grandpa Bob, who's got a little bit of cash, maybe some 401k cash, accessing retirement funds, because those retirement funds are just sitting in the bank, right? Mm-hmm. Unless they have it in a corporate 401k, but a lot of them will have it in self-directed 401ks, and it's just sitting in the bank earning 3% or 4%. And you could say, hey, I could do a 50-50 split with you. I just need this $40,000 for the down payment and the rehab. And now all of a sudden you've learned how to leverage the hard money lender, leverage Uncle Tom, and you actually don't have any cash in the deal, and you get a check at the end.
That's the best way to do it. OPM, right? Other people's money. It makes the most money for you. It's got that infinite return on investment. Gotta love it. All right. So you got people on the internet that will tell you 100 different things on how to do stuff. My best approach or my best advice is always to find somebody, a mentor who's already doing this successfully so that you can learn from them. I know you've been doing it a long time. You've helped and coached people. What are some of the biggest misconceptions that you get asked or quoted or people are just telling you, hey, is this the way it's done? But it's a big misconception to the investment game, to the flip game, to maybe the hard money game.
So hiring a guru or a coach doesn't get the job done. You got to be willing to do the work. It's just like, hey, I'm the first of the year, I'm going to go sign up for the gym. Yeah. If you don't go to the gym, you're not going to get anything done. Same thing. You go hire me as a coach and you're not willing to spend the time in. My biggest dislike in the coaching business is people will actually pay me, and I'm just and I give them a set of tasks, and we come back for our next call, and not one of those tasks is done. And I'm just you're paying me to give you advice to move you forward in this process, and you're not doing anything for yourself. That's my biggest struggle. I just because then I'm just and I've had people write me large checks, $50,000 for coaching. And I'm you just gave me $50,000 to jump on the phone and be your friend? Is that what you want? Or do you really want to do this? So you got to be able to put in the work. There is in any entrepreneurship, I'm sure you have lots of entrepreneurs. I think there is no fast track. You got to be willing to put in the work.
That's 100% true. I love using the 6-pack analogy, the gym one, right? You can read about a 6-pack, you can learn all the routines about a 6-pack, but you ain't ever going to get a 6-pack till you get down and do the work. And that's kind of the nitty-gritty of almost anything. You've done thousands of deals. You've managed to scale a business that a lot of people don't always see a pathway to being able to scale. How did you scale in real estate while keeping the risk low?
Well, you're obviously going to scale manpower, right? You can that's probably the easiest way to scale is manpower. So like you get good at doing this yourself, and then your next step would be like, okay, I'm going to hire a personal assistant. So I'm not doing the miscellaneous stuff myself. Now I'm doing the stuff that makes me the most return on investment, right? The biggest ROI in my business. And then so you get your personal assistants, probably your first hire. It's probably a little bit of jack of all trades that can help you with, like, you don't want to be doing TC work or transaction coordinating work, like getting documents.
Oh, did we lose you?
Oops,
Oh no!
I'm back.
Oh, there you go. We got you.
Anyway, you there?
Yeah, we're here.
Did my internet go slow?
You're here to me. I can hear you. I can see you. Or maybe not. Well, while we get Chris back, ladies and gents, that's the Chris, you there?
You're back.
All right, there we go. Brought you back.
Yeah, I lost you for a second. Yeah.
Well, anyways, I'm gonna kind of, so at the end there, we were talking about scaling real estate. You were talking about bringing new people in, going over, like, not having to do TC work all the time. That's when I lost you.
No. Yeah, no, I was just, so leveraging people is obviously is the way to help you scale. And then, getting, I'm actually at a mastermind right now in Dallas, and they're actually, I'm an older guy talking about 53, and they're actually, today's opening thing was like, how does the 53-year-old guy bring on the new talent? Because clearly the guys that are really hungry, that are really successful in the acquisition game, tend to be like the next generation lower. But they just have a different set of expectations than a guy like me. I didn't grow up on a tablet. I didn't grow up on a phone. I didn't have like instant everything. So hiring and scaling, I think just using other people and that's the best thing to do. And like, you get the right, and all my acquisition guys are kind of like that 25 to 30-year-old. They're trying to get that entrepreneurial spirit, and they're trying to get those big checks. And, in sales, you can get some big checks.
100%. The sky's the limit when it comes to the sales game. Well, yeah. And speaking of different markets, I saw Washington, D.C.'s market is kind of tanking. You see some markets in Florida that are kind of tanking. You see some markets in Texas, just a lot of inventory going into the market. And where a lot of people see problems, a lot of others see opportunities. Where do you see the market going in the next couple of years?
So obviously with interest, we've had the price increases, right? And we've had interest rates kind of stay around that 6 to 7%. So there's an affordability issue right there. It's going to take either maybe some prices sliding, and because if you're sitting on that 3% mortgage that we talked about, and at that $100,000, now you want to go up to that $150,000 house, but you're going to pay 6.5%, 7%. That's a big jump. Now you're going to have people that have to do that because their family's growing, their job's moving. But a lot of times you're just going to have people be like, I'm pretty good right here, staying at my 3% mortgage. So there's got to be some kind of motivation, and or you have to see interest rates slide. Now, you have seen a lot of stuff in, the tech stocks have slid back recently in this last week. You've seen Bitcoin slide back recently in these last weeks. So typically when that happens, they move from the aggressive investments to the bonds. And if people buy more 10-year bond, that will move interest rates back. So you've seen interest rates dip into that high 5 range, So like if you're an FHA borrower, you could probably get a 5.5 or a 5.75 mortgage right now. That will qualify more people. That'll get them out of the woodwork. But I think you'll see more the 10-year slide even a little bit further, and then that'll get more buyers in the market.
I think so too. I think I think we see some lower interest rates coming around the corner. The biggest issue right now is that discretionary income. It's tough these days with prices going up. As a wholesaler, as these types of markets make their move, any advice out there for young budding wholesale people that are looking to get deals? Where should they be kind of picking markets to kind of go after?
So I'm in Phoenix and Florida. Two are probably the hottest wholesale markets. There's lots of competition. So what's great about a wholesaler, and everybody asks me, like, how are you doing in this current real estate market? Well, the good thing about wholesaling is it's a little bit like day trading, right? As long as if you move your buy number back, if it's a hot market, maybe you can go 72 cents on the dollar, 73 cents on the dollar. If it's a slow market, maybe I got to go 67 cents on the dollar, 68 cents on the dollar. But you just move your buy number back. And if you learn to pivot and adjust with the market, there's always a buyer for a good deal. Like, if it's a good deal, money will find it.
Yep. People got to live somewhere, and investors got to put their money to work. And you're absolutely right. When the deal forms, when the money's right, it works. You've shared a lot of great information. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be interested in finding out more about what it is you do. If people want to find out more about flipping, more about hard money lending, more about just the business in general, where can they go and what are they going to find?
You can definitely go to my YouTube channel. It's just for flips. I do a weekly podcast, just like this podcast. I have different investors. I got a guy, a well-known guy in the space. His name's Jameel. He's talking about pad splits and co-living, obviously with the, the affordability issue. I'm also on Instagram, but you can always DM me there. I can always point you in the right direction. I'm happy to help. Like, if you where would I go to check this out? I know pretty much everybody in the industry. Like I said, I'm sitting here in Dallas with the top 200 people in this space in a mastermind right now, and they're having a happy hour and we're chatting about real estate.
Now you got to get out there and go back into the happy hour. You've been doing this for quite some time. I was going to ask you, so 99 was a market crash. We had a market crash in 2008. It's been a minute for the next one. Do you see something like that happening around the corner, or are we going to kind of just level out? What's your gut telling you?
Well, if you look at the tech stocks and the S&P 500, I mean, the S&P 500 dropped through its 200-day average, which today. So, I don't know what the next downturn in. Obviously, tech stocks were the 99. Everybody was, buying stuff at 50 and 60 times earnings, which doesn't work in a long-term scale. Obviously, you had the credit crisis in 2007, but I don't know what this crisis is. But you can't have stuff that the S&P just goes straight up. Bitcoin has gone straight up. Everything doesn't just keep going straight up. It doesn't work that way. So
something's got to change. Something's got to give. There's got to be ups and downs. Well, ladies and gentlemen, one more time. His website scrolling across the bottom is justforflips.com, justforflips.com. I always believe in finding mentors who are doing what you want to do. It's the fastest way to success. It's going to curve that learning. It's going to shorten that learning curve quite a bit. So make sure you check out what Chris has over there at Just for Flips. And we're going to let him go because he's got a happy hour to go to and a bunch of other real estate investors to talk to. So if you guys need help, one more time, justforflips.com. Chris, thank you very much for being on the program. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace. And we're out.
It's over. Go home.
Is your business in need of marketing? Try starting a podcast. But not just any podcast. Podcast like a pro. We can show you how to take your business from being invisible to becoming a brand people trust. Go to www.businessbros.biz to get started today.